This is the tool wagon in 45mm gauge track that this kit is going to be built. So at the end, this is what you should end up with. This is going to be the health and safety. It's a little bit boring, so while I'm reading it you can have a look at a couple of Roundhouse engines. So here we go. Health and safety. What follows in this video is my method of constructing an MDF garden railway wagon. The methods I use are mine and are purely a way to an end. The glues I use can and are dangerous if abused or wrongly used. May I suggest that any adhesives or glues that you decide to use are fit for the purpose you're going to use them for. Please read all the manufacturer's guidance notes that accompany them and follow them religiously. I've been building kits now for over 15 years. If it goes wrong, it's my fault, full stop. I don't want your wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, mother or father contacting me and saying it's my fault their beloved ones got their hands stuck to the kitchen table and are waiting for the fire brigade to come because they watched my video. This video is shown as a demonstration of my method. You must follow it as you feel is fit, correct and safe. Always use super glue in a well ventilated area. This is quite a major warning. Do not use a cotton or wool based cloth to wipe off super glue. It will react, it will smoke, it will heat up and may even catch fire. I use one type of wood glue, Evo Stick wood adhesive. I list those three glues, but obviously others are available. It's your choice. You may have a preference or from previous experience. You'll need some elastic bands, various sizes depending which model you're going to be building, but a good average one is 70 to 80 diameter, that's millimeters, and it's about 2 millimeters thickness of rubber. You'll need a knife and other bits and bobs, general modelling knife, the ones with the break off blade seem ideal. A damp cloth is useful for wiping off excess glue, some kitchen towel or loo roll, some long nose pliers and some spring loaded clips. I'm warning you again, do not use cotton or wool based cloth to wipe off super glue. Okay, so that's the end of the health and safety. So please sit back, watch the video through and then start to build the wagon and enjoy it. Thank you. Right, these are the general tools I use to build the models. I use two types of super glue, both from Toolstation. We've got a very runny one, which is a bit like water, and then we've got a thicker one, which is a bit like wallpaper paste, a thick oil almost. And what I do is I've got a couple of little caps off of milk bottles, which I pour into and keep one for the thin and one for the thick, and I use a bent paper clip to dip and put the glue onto the various parts we're building. You need a sharp knife, a pair of pliers, and an assortment of elastic bands. May need some other bits as we go along, but those are the general tools that we use. I also label my bottles thick and thin. It's very easy to pick up the wrong one at the wrong time, and the little containers are labelled thick and thin as well. Another set of tools that may be useful and assist with building are these spring loaded clamps, which are available from places like Toolstation. They're not very expensive. You'll see later on in the video where these will be used to clamp the underframes together rather than using a pair of pliers. So if you've got these in your box, they'll be useful. Right, these are all the parts needed to build 32mm version of the tool wagon as a kit. Right, so this is the tool wagon. So the first part we're going to assemble is the basic shell, which consists of the 5 parts that you can see in front. It's a bit fiddly, you need some elastic bands, but here we go. No glue to start with. Right, I've got little holes line up there. Sort of hold it with one finger, one hand. On this one, the actual engraving goes to the outside. Again, cutouts should all line up.
Again, hold it together with 3 fingers. You're going to need 4 hands to do this, but it is possible to do it with 2. I'll probably drop it a few times, but at least you're seeing it as it happens. Right, that's those bits done at the end. Okay, here we go. This is the next end going on. Right, now we have to put the elastic band on. This is best started at one end. Right, okay, rolling down. Until we're just in that position there. Do the same the other end. And we add a second elastic band. Again, position them as shown. Okay, lay it down, push down gently all the way around and push in, make sure it's square and sits down firmly. Then we gently turn it over and we're now starting to do some gluing. I tend to do this with the thin glue. So pour some thin glue into our container. I don't want to use too much for this. I just want to go into the corners because this MDF, it soaks in quite well. Just a touch. Just pull it a little bit. On the other side. Make sure they're pushed down firmly. One's pushed down firmly. And a little bit in the middle. A little bit on the other side. And turn it on end. And we're just going to put a little bit hold the top halves in position. Split in the ends. This is a fairly runny glue, it does run down quite quickly. And then turn it over and do the same this end. Don't worry about the glue showing because there's an end cover that covers all this up. But you don't want to plaster on there. And just on the ends. Do a bit more on that one, I think. Right, and turn it over, drop it down again onto its base. Just a gentle push down, make sure it sits square. Right, now to leave that now for about 5 minutes before we move on to the next section. Right, while that bit's drying, we can move on and start to do some on the roof section. So we have the roof section, which has a line scored down the middle, which will become our bend line when we're ready. And we've got the 4 hatches. The squared line is marked where each hatch lines up. The individual holes, the big holes, are going to be the glue holes from the other side. And the part in the middle is where the hinges were later cut. So take the first one and line it up on the engraved edges all the way around. So you shouldn't be able to see any of the engraved lines. That looks good. Turn it over while holding it firm. And then again with the thin glue. Oh, I didn't seem to have too much there, so I'll have to fill up my container. A good dollop in there. And in each of the circles. And that will wick through and glue the cover in position. Just stay there for a minute or two, and we will do that for each one in turn. There's not a lot of point in me showing you each one doing the same. Right, so that's all 4 now done, as you can see. Again, make sure you put the hinges to the centre, and then that needs to be put this way up, aside somewhere to dry. If you put it the other side up, it'll stick to wherever you've left it. Again, that wants to be left for about 5 minutes to dry off. Okay, then next job now is to add the hinges to each location. There's a total of 8 locations. Now this is going to be difficult to show you how I do it because I use a magnifying glass, but I'll try and zoom in with the camera so you can see the exact process I use. Right, as I need a magnifying glass on a stand for me to do this, and I want to get it right, I'll do a dry run so you can see with the camera what I normally do. And it's up to you to do it. So we get some thin glue. Obviously there's no glue on it at the moment, and we put a tiny drop in that area, there, there, there and there, and just sort of rub it in a little bit. And then taking a knife and the blade, push it down into the wood so it just penetrates it, and we can now hold it. And then very gently and carefully you line it up with the marks on there. I tend to put the back down first, put my finger on it, and you can still move it left and right a bit and line it up and push down with the knife, finger on, knife away, and just push down with your finger. And that's how we do it. And then you move on to the next one. I'll show you doing those, but you won't be able to see too much because my fingers are getting in the way and the magnifying glass will be in the way. I don't know how successful this is going to be, but I'm going to attempt to hold the camera and fit the last one. So put a bit of glue. Push down. There we go. That's the last one done. Okay, next job then is to fit the little handles, of which there are 8. and a small piece of wood, which is the spacing jig. Right. Each handle goes into the little holes. Give it a bit of a wiggle. We do 2 at a time. And the jig slides in underneath each one. Push the handle down and just give it a little tweak on the back to stop it falling through. Make sure they're level with the body, and then with a little bit of super glue just put a little dollop on each one, and that'll do a capillary action, a drop down through and lock the handle in position. Happens quite quick. Slide the jig out, have a look, make sure it looks alright, and move on to the next pair. Again, slide the jig in, push them down, little tweak to hold them in position, make sure they're level and square, dollop of super glue. Don't think that went. Right. That one moved a little bit, pushing back. Slide the jig out. Check they're square and straight. And move over to the other side. Jig in. Push them down. Little tweak. Hold them in position. The glue. Check they're all square. Jig out. And the last pair. As before, just tweak it, hold it in position. Check it's still square, and jig out. Right, now that again needs to be left for about 5 minutes very gently so that it can dry. The next stage is to fit the side pieces 1, 2, 3, 4, and then to fit the end covers as well. So take off our elastic bands. So there's 3 sizes, small, medium and large. So we start off with the medium one. The glue may have got a small lump on it, just clean off with the knife any proud pieces. Right, okay. Now, if you look carefully, you'll see there's a little nick there. and there, and there, and there. Now they're used to help us align the pieces which we're about to put in here, which is the medium one. So that's the 3-hole or 3 bolts, not the small one, but the medium sized one. And what we do here is we use one of the lower frame assembly pieces to assist us. I won't do it with the glue first, I'll show you what we do first. We hold that against there. I'll just tilt it slightly so you can see what I'm doing. And then with the knife blade pushed into the piece, we run some thick glue this time along this edge here. And then we touch it against the back, drop it down and slide it up against the little nick there. So it's pushed against the back and the nick. And that then holds that in position. And then we will remove and hold it with our finger and just push. And then rub your finger along the side to make sure it's flush and to remove any excess glue. So that's what I'll now do, but I'll do it for real. Okay, using the thick glue, a fair amount on there, and then spread it around a little bit. Okay, pick up the piece with the knife blade and put our piece on the back to support it. Nice and firm. In we go and slide it up against the notch and the piece pushed down. And then just rub your finger along the back. Job done. So we turn round and we do exactly the same on this one, but of course the notch is over there now. So again, medium piece ready, thick glue. Spread it around a little bit. Pick up the piece, hold the backing in, and here we go, up against it and push down. That's that side done. We turn over, get the third one ready. Spread the glue around. Hold the piece to the back. In we go. This may look fairly easy, but I've done quite a few of these. We've got a small gap, as you can see, at the top. That's because when the roof comes down, it just touches both sides, or both ends. And the last one to do, hold the piece up nice and tight against the back, down against the notch, And then make sure you've got no glue on that piece because you'll be using that later on. Okay, next job now is to do the small ones there and there. So this time we do this by eyesight rather than anything else. Okay, so this time we're going to fit the small piece with the 3 bolt holes in. Again, a little bit of thick glue, not too much. Spread it up. Now I tend to put my thumb down the bottom as a backstop, and we're trying to get it within the lines. Gentle push down. And move on to the next one. Exactly the same. If a little bit of super glue gets onto the wood, just rub it with your finger. It does come off, and then when it dries you can't see it. Turn over. Do number 3. And number 4. You don't have to use super glue, you can use a white wood PVA glue. It takes longer to dry and gives you a second chance. Super glue is a bit instant and it all happens, so if you muck it up you're a bit stuck. But of course things are done a lot quicker. Oh, my thumb's stuck a little bit then. Right, that's the sides done. Right, next we have to do is the end pieces, which is there, and that's where the thicker ones come in. So those are the next ones we're going to fit. Right, as you'll see, one row is further away from that edge, and that row is close to that edge. And the general way I put them in is with the big gap going towards the outside, so it will fit as I'm holding it now. But obviously you've got to remember is that when you come to do the other side over here, you have to put it on the other way around again, so the big gap is on the outside. Right, before we fit these, the first thing to make sure is we've got a clean flat surface there. Rub your finger over it. Same on there. There's a little bit of glue there. Turn them over. Check both sides. That's okay. Right. Okay. So again, we're going to need this piece again as our alignment. And the other part is done by eye. So again, I'll do this as a dry run. So looking at our piece there, make sure big gap is to the outside. Push the knife in to hold it. We would then put some glue, which we'll do in a moment, along that edge there, and smear it around a little bit. Then we hold our alignment edge up there, and then we go in very carefully. We're lining up the bottom edge there with the bottom edge of the previous one we put in. So we go up to the edge there. Obviously we can move it around, I haven't touched down yet. And then very gently you come down until you're aligned. Take the alignment piece away, push down, and that's job done. So we'll now do that with some glue. So again we use the thick glue. Smear it around a little bit. Pick up our piece. Alignment piece to the back. And in we go. Touch at the back. Slide him down. And there we go. Take the back piece away. Push down. Rub your finger across to make sure there's no glue there and it's a nice flush surface, which it is. Then we turn it round and we do the next one. There you glue on. Pick up your piece, don't forget, big edge to the outside. Your alignment piece to the back. And down we go. Push down. Wipe any glue off, have a look. Okay, now we can move to the other end. Again we do the same. Use thick glue, spread it around. Pick up the piece, again double check, outside edge is thick. Pick up our alignment piece. And slide down. Remove any excess glue. Looks good. And the final fourth side. Pick up the fourth one, check thick edge facing out, alignment piece, and down we go. Finger across the back. That's good. Okay. So that's now done the corners and the side strapping. We don't put the end straps on yet until we fitted the underframes. They then cover up where the underframes poke through. So put that to one side to dry. Right, we'll now move on to the under frames and the axle box covers. So there's one for each side and 4 axle box covers. These are a bit finicky to fit. What we tend to do is take some thick super glue. I won't do it, I'll just show you for the moment. And put a very, very small drop in the middle of there, not a lot. Then using your knife, push it into the end of the axle box cover, and then very gently lower it down to they're in position, and then push down gently, and then with your finger just hold it, take your knife away, count to 5, and that'll be stuck there. Hopefully not your finger. Just the smallest amount of glue is needed. Right, okay, let's see if I can show. That's all that's needed. Now, obviously I can't hold the camera and do the job at the same time. Okay, I've done that now on those 4. You make it a bit better success if you use a PVA glue. It gives you a chance to move it around a little bit. Super glue is pretty instantaneous. If you get it in the wrong position, that's it. Although these aren't perfect, but when it's painted, the running board tends to cover up partly where it is. So that's those done, so we'll put those to one side. Right, so while that's drying, the next bit we move on to is the running boards and the framework that supports them, which we can see one for each side. We'll just move those out of the way and show you how they fit together. Very fragile, so you've got to go fairly carefully. All the notches should line up, so the running board goes underneath the framework, as we can see there. So I'll bring it up so you can see how it actually goes. Right, okay, now this is a tricky bit, gluing this, as you will see, the method I use. Okay, this is the method I use, is using the thick glue. Wait for it to come into focus. Right, just put a little bit on the bottom of each one. On the end. Just a small dab where each little spigot sticks down. And one on the very end. Right, this is the tricky bit. So, right, what I tend to do is lay it down. You've got to keep it moving, otherwise it'll stick to the baseboard. And then offer up the running board and just keep it moving, otherwise it will stick to the bottom. I know, because it's happened. Do it for about 5 to 10 seconds, which is more than adequate. Right, it's now done. So then turn it up, setting on the running board, finger on the running board, bring the frame up right, and then just push down with the knife blade just to make sure it's fully secured. Right, then pick it up and then look along the line to make sure that it's at 90 degrees, which it is. If it's not, then lay it down, fingers on the running board, and manoeuvre the framework, and then check again. Okay, that one went successfully, so put that one to one side, and we'll now do the next one. Again, before we do it, we'll just make sure that it will fit. No reason why it shouldn't. I've never had one yet that doesn't fit. Right, okay. So out with the glue again. Just a small little piece. Touch. Touch. Working your way along. Okay, then we do exactly the same again. Lay it down. Again, keep it moving. Offer up the running board. Hold it in position. Keep it going so it doesn't stick. Okay, pick it up. And again, do the same process. Just work along, pushing each one down and just tweaking it so it's upright. Again, check that it's 90 degrees, which it is, and put that to one side and allow that to dry. Right, so the next job now is to reinforce the back with some super glue. So again, we use the thick glue. We don't need the knife, that's there so I can make sure that the camera can see what I'm doing. So looking at the back, we get some super glue. We just sort of smear it along the back, almost like a paint. Not too much, don't sort of trowel it on. And again, make the join there. Wouldn't worry too much what it looks like because this bit's never seen. Right, obviously when you put it down, don't put it down like that way. I've done it, it sticks. So that way up and leave it to one side to dry. And then we move on to the next one, or the last one, and we do exactly the same. Just smear it along. I've done one at the moment, I've managed to stick my fingers together, so that can't be bad. Right, but there's still time left yet. A bit too much there. Spread that along a little bit. And a bit on the end. This glue from Tool Plus is really good stuff and it's really cheap. I can't remember exactly how much it is, but I think it's about £4 a bottle. It just lasts forever. Compared to the stuff you get from the supermarkets or Great Mills or whatever they call themselves these days. Right, okay, again, don't leave it that way, leave it that way up, leave it to one side to dry. The underframe part supplied in your kit will actually have numbers inscribed on each part, as opposed to the instruction video which shows a number of lines. This is an update to make it easier to build. Right, so now we start on the underframes. First job to do on the frames is to fit the ball races into their corresponding pieces. Now the pieces are numbered with straight lines. So on one side we've got obviously a 4, on the other side a 4, and then we've got a 5 and a 5. Now it's important to get these around the right way, otherwise you won't see the engraving on the correct side of the model when it's built. So take a number 4, insert the bearings in from the back, take a number 5 and place on top, dropping the bearing at the same time. You'll find they just protruded enough to pick up on both pieces. Right, and then, okay, sorry about that, the battery went flat on my camera, which I'm using to film this. So we've reached the point where we've got 4 behind, 5 on top, numbers facing up. We've pushed the bearings in from behind. We then turn over, and we do exactly the same on this one. Bearing goes in from behind and behind, they protrude slightly. You'll see why we're doing this in a moment. Then number 5 drops on top. Drops on top. And we turn over. So what we're now going to do is we're going to actually glue the bearings in situ. So make sure they're pushed down firmly. And for this we use the thin glue. This is where it can get a bit mucky on your fingers. Well, I'll just zoom in a bit on that. Okay, again I'm using the knife as a reference so I make sure I'm in the field of view for the camera. Oh, hang on, I've got no lights on. Oh, dear me. That's better. Right, let's see what we're doing now. Right, so using the thin glue, you put just a touch around there, keeping your finger on the bearing, and move to the next one. Again, run it round. Bring in the other side. Run it round. And for the fourth one. Then we go back to the first one again, so it's spun round. This is where we get glue on our fingers. Just wipe a bit off the glue off. Again, hold it down, come around with the glue, and just take your finger off to wipe the glue away. Take the glue off, hold it down, round, and then take the glue off. And back to the third one, glue off, round, wipe it away, glue off. If you don't do this, you'll find you end up with your finger sticking to the bearing. I know, I've done it. And wipe it off. Right, so that's the bearings more or less held in there. So we now just go around a little bit more, just to make sure they're firmly in there. We don't want them coming out. So we sort of go round, all the way round, and again just wipe any off the surface of the bearing. Try not to get it in with the balls of the bearings. If you do, that's it completely, oh god, on my finger, that's it completely buggered then, isn't it? Right, have I done that one? No. If you do get obviously glue in the bearings or you break anything, then just drop me an email and I'll, with your address, and I'll post off to you free of charge whatever bit you've managed to bugger up. Okay, so that's the bearings ready to dry, so we'll leave them to one side now. Right, okay, so the next stage now is to do the underframes. So we need to lay them out more or less as we got here. 1, 2, 3. We'll see these are the ones we did before. So that's 4, 5. You can go split them up now. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for the moment. And then we've got obviously 9, which we put the actual boxes on earlier on. The other part you'll need will be the actual chassis, mainframe, call it what you like, that we made before. And also you're going to need the 2 spacers that go between the chassis rails. Put those there for a moment. And you're going to need the set of wheels. Now the wheels come ready set up depending on whether you purchase 32mm or 45mm. I've pushed the wheels onto the axle for you. I've done the back-to-back spacing. They've then put into a lathe and they've been turned down so that they do run true. And that's in both cases. So I'll put the wheels there. Right, okay, so in the bottom of the shell you can see we have let's look at this end here. That's where the coupling goes through, or the buffer. And then you've got 2 holes there and 2 holes there. Now that's where we pick up on the underframes. So the first underframe you have to pick out is the one that's got the little notches on the end there, as you can see. Right, so this is where you have to get it around the right way. The numbers always have to face outwards. So it's out on that side and it's out on that side. That way you can't go wrong. So we take the first one, we engage, and then we flex it. It's a bit frightening what you're doing, but as you flex it, it will bend, and you bend it until it drops into the hole, and that's lined up there. To make sure you've got it around the right way is the flange of the bearing should be on the inside and the writing should be on the outside, and that should be number 4. So we then do the same on the other side. Again, flange on the inside, put it into the hole, doesn't want to go, not quite sure why. Okay, we're in, and then again we flex it. You can see we've got quite a big bend on there until it drops in to the end one, and this one's not going. Why is that? No, I haven't got it flat enough, that's why. Right, there we go. Right, so that's got the 2 ends in. Okay, so that's number 4. So the numbers work out. So we go 5, 6, 7, 8 coming out, and we go 3, 2, 1 going into the centre. So that's number 4. So we then look at number 3. Again, numbers facing out. So number 3 goes in. Then number 2 goes in. Again, numbers facing out. And then number 1, again numbers facing out. Hold that with your finger, push them down firmly. Now we've got to do exactly the same on the other side. So again, numbers 3 facing out. This is where you need 4 hands. Pick up number 2, again numbers facing out. Number 1 facing out. So that's the inner frames done. Now we have to put the spreader pieces in which will hold them in. That's these pieces here. And we've got a slot there, and we've got a slot there. So again, into the first one, and again slip it until it drops in. So you have to flex it a little bit. Turn it round, and then we do the one on the other side. And that's flexed in. So that's the inner frames done. All pushed down, and they should all be a nice, very tightish sort of fit. There we go. So now we have to add the wheels. Now this gets a bit tricky because we've got to flex it open to get the wheels in. So we drop the first one in, and then we sort of push it into the bearing and over to the other one, and then line up the holes and put it back together. Now let's turn it over. This is where we do the same this end. Again, dropping down into the first bearing, pulling out a little bit into the second bearing, make sure everything drops in and lines up, and then pinching it there, just push them down. Make sure that the wheels rotate, which they should. And then around to the other side. Again, gently pinch it where the spreader is, and the wheel should rotate. Okay, now we're going to add the rest of the underframes. Okay, well before we fit the rest of the main frames, we have to oil up the bearings. Now, a normal light grade 3 in 1 would do. Which is what I've got in here. Obviously I'll use a syringe. No doubt your local druggie can supply you with one. And we just put a little tiny drop into where the bearing is. Just one each side. Not too much. Turn over. Do the other side. Just give them a spin. Okay, now we can start adding the outer frame. Right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 under there. So the next one we want is 5. So we put 5 on. Then we want 6. We want 7. And we want 8. And the last one is the one where we fitted the axle boxes. Now, to make sure we got that right, when you view down, you should be able to see all the engravings on the brake detail, the axle box, and the bottom of the bearings. Now, holding that in place, turn it over, and we now have to do the same on this side. So we've got number 4, so we fit number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, and the final one with the axle boxes. Make sure they're all pushed down firmly and squeeze together with your fingers. Okay, right, now we're going to glue them all together. Now, to glue them all together, first of all, make sure that both axle boxes are pushed tightly together and you've got no gaps between any of the woods and the wheels spin. Now, to do this, you're going to need a thin glue and you're going to need a pair of pin nose pliers, which you'll see why in a moment. So the first thing we do is make sure it's all pushed firmly and pushed down firmly. Again, check the wheels rotate. So we take the thin glue and we just put a smear along there. Then we sort of wipe it around a bit. What we're doing is we're forcing it down in between the joints of the underframe. You'll find it wicks down quite quickly. Okay, then we take a big dollop, and if you can see, we put it down inside so it runs down. Then fairly quickly, just clamp it with your pliers, just pull it together gently. That'll squeeze some of the glue out. Count to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you'll find that's quite firm. Again, check the wheel still rotates. Then we go to the other side again, make sure it's all pushed down firmly. Firmly down at the back, none of the pieces are sticking up. Again, take the thin glue, smear it along, work it in, take a dollop and put it inside, take your pliers and again just squeeze gently. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and release, and check the wheel still rotates. Okay, while still keeping pressure halfway along, let's just top up my reservoir of glue a moment. We now have to glue the various other bits in here. So put one down there, one halfway along on each side, one in the corner of the stretcher, one on the other corner, halfway, and then put one on the inside as well, and then one on the top of the stretcher, making sure you don't get on the wheel, and the same on the other side. And again, check wheel still rotates. Right, and then turn it round, and we repeat the process at the other end. So again, make sure the wheel rotates, axle boxes are tight, run with the glue along the side, work it in, take a dollop and put it on the inside. Pliers and squeeze. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, check, still got rotation. Now move over to the other side. Smear it along. Dollop and inside, and again squeeze. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we still rotate. Right, I'm just going to finish off another one down there, getting a bit low again. Halfway along, in the corner, halfway, the other corner, halfway, top of the spreader, I put one halfway there and one halfway there. Okay, so now leave that for about 5 minutes just for the glue to go off. Okay, once the glue is dry, it's now handy at this point just to make sure it does run as you expect it to run. If it doesn't, I don't quite know what you're going to do, but I've got to have one that fails. So, on the track, yes, my battery went flat again halfway through, so here we are. So take it to your piece of test track, as we were saying, and make sure it runs. Okay, a little push, seems okay. Runs smooth, yeah. So, good to go. Okay, next stage now is to fit the running boards. So we have the two running boards. So we do a trial fit first of all. So it sort of fits in like that, up against into the corner. Should drop down. So obviously that's going to fit over there. Okay. So for this we then need the thick glue. What I tend to do is get a little bit of thick glue. We're trying to go into that corner up there. Just a little blob. And a little blob in that corner. And then we pick up the one we're going to do. And we put just a touch where each one faces down. Hardly anything, it's not needed. And then on each of those ends, and there, and there. And then we force it in at the top and then roll it down while keeping it pushed towards the corner of the wagon. Push down with your finger and push it up against the axle box. And there's your running board done. And now we repeat that for the other side. Again, make sure it fits. It does. A little bit of glue in the corner. A little bit in the corner. Again, same place, just a little bit where each strut goes down. And a little dollop where it can touch on the axle box. Again, force it in. As usual, I get one that doesn't fit. Okay, so we've got some glue caught up in that corner there. Just stopping it going in. I didn't do my trial fit properly, did I? Okay, so right, so let's try again. So we go in corner, that's a bit better. No, it's still not perfect. Okay. Let's try again. Whoops, that's better. Okay, right, it's time the glue's come off, so we'll just do that again. Right, bit of glue. This time I'll just put it on the ends. Right, try again. So in, that's better. Right, okay. So down we go. Which is why you should always do a dry fit first of all and look properly, which I didn't. Okay, that's your running boards done. So now what we have to do is to add the two main struts up there, which is the next job we will do. Right, so these are the bits we're going to need, and as you will see, there's two very close together at the bottom, holes, not holes, bolts, and they're chamfered at the top, so we've got to get them in the right place. So obviously chamfer there goes onto that one, and that one goes onto there. Now this job again is done by eye. Right, so to stick this piece on, we use thick glue, just a small amount. A few little drops. This is where it does get mucky on your fingers. Just smear it around a little bit. Turn it over. Now I tend to line up the bottom first against my finger, and then line it up with the lines that run up. Make sure we're flush with the top and push down. And that's a success. And then we do the same with the one on the other side. And smear the glue down. Turn it over. Make sure you got the angles, make sure the angles line up. Line up the finger on the bottom. A bit finicky, but it does work. And the lines that come up, pushing down, line up with the top. And turn over and do the other side. Again, get the right one in the right place. Turn over. The glue. Smear it on. Again, make sure you got the angle at the right place. Line it up. Push it down. Move over to the other one. Add the glue. So, that's basically the truck finished. Okay, back to the roof. Now's the time to trim off underneath. So you need a pair of snips, and you'll see where the handles protruded through. They just need trimming back. Turn your bench back a bit. Right. So the next job now is we've got to score down the line with a knife a few times and slowly begin to bend it. We're going to bend it until it reaches that angle and there's a nice fit on top of there. Don't want to bend it too far because it will snap. Okay, here we go. Just gently score it down. It sounds rough because where it's already been engraved. And just sort of flex it a little bit. A little bit more. No rush over this, take your time. You don't do this on the kitchen table, otherwise you'll be in trouble. Yeah, starting to go. Then take your wagon and just sort of flex it down over. Use that as the reference so you don't go too far. And then when you're touching both sides, just take the knife and just sort of come along the top and just take the edge off where you've been scribing it with a knife. So it becomes nice and smooth. Turn them round. Do the same on the other side. So that's nice and smooth. Right, having got the roof a nice fit, before we glue it or stick it, best thing is to put an elastic band to hold it in position on that end. On that end. Make sure the apexes line up. Each end. Make sure you've got the same overhang on each end. Just put your fingers and just push it and move it a little bit one way or the other. soon as you're happy, you've got the same overhang there as you've got there. The next thing to do then is you take your glue, and you put a drop there, and a drop there, turn it over, a drop in there, and a drop in there, and I tend to use the runny one. And then just a small bit in there, and there, and there, and there. And then you put that aside for about 10 minutes for it to dry. Right, having let that dry, the last thing to fit is the buffers, which shouldn't really need any explanation whatsoever. Undo the nut, there's a washer. Plastic band's in the way, but never mind. Feed the buffer in, nut and washer on, hook to the top, using the slot, adjust to the height that suits you. That's it, that's complete. It's now up to you to paint it. Have fun.